All About Beer receives underwriting support from Trillium Brewing Company. They understand the importance of independent journalism in the beer space, and their support helps fund original work. Learn how you can affordably support journalists by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Holl. This week, it's a conversation with David Lynn of Comrade Brewing in Colorado. From adapting the brewery over the years to dialing in IPAs through hop selection, you'll hear why the brewery is well respected among its peers and why it's a must visit when in the Denver area. Been talking about this on the show for a while. You often hear Andy Crouch at the cold open of the shows, but the way we're able to keep bringing original content to the beer industry and to curious beer drinkers is through your support. We've created an affordable underwriting program that is easy on your budget, helps you get visibility, and is an altruistic way to directly fund writers, photographers, and editors. Please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. When you're at the website, poke around a bit, read some of the recent articles, peruse the archives, which go all the way back to 1979 when this company was founded. Tune into other podcasts like Brewer to Brewer and the All About Beer podcast. You won't be disappointed. You can follow us on social media at All About Beer to keep up with everything else we have going on, and I hope you will. We'll get into this conversation in a moment, but first, here's a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Stomp Stickers. Stomp is built for the business community, serving everyone from small independents to larger franchises. Whether you need low minimums for a limited batch or bulk pricing for your go-to products, they've got you covered. Join thousands of breweries that trust Stomp for their custom printing needs. Go to stompstickers.com and try them out and score 15% off of your first order with the code FIRSTRUN.
Calling all hopheads. Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60 Minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60 Minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
I had my first Comrade beer shortly after the brewery opened. I was at Falling Rock, the once great beer bar in Denver. The owner, Chris Black, was eagerly putting pints in the hands of folks who wanted to know about the brewery. I was hooked and made drinking Comrade beer part of my regular rotation when visiting the city. But it wasn't until a few months ago, shortly before the Great American Beer Festival, that I got to visit in person. Drinking the IPAs where they're made are always a good idea and always makes them taste a little bit better. When I ran into the founder, David Lynn, we got to talking about hops. He said the recipes, which he had always been proud of, really kicked into a fresh gear when he started doing hop selection a few years ago. So in this episode, we talk about place, an IPA, hops, and the industry at large. Here's our conversation. David, thanks for doing this. I was thinking back to the first Comrade beer that I had, and it was at Falling Rock. So it must have been for a GABF or a CBC that was in town. And everybody's sort of going for the usual Russian River, all of the other fun stuff that the Brothers Black had on tap. And Chris Black was like, "Hey, have you had this yet?" And poured me a delightful IPA of some kind. And it was yours. And I think you had just recently opened up. So that would have been what year?
We opened in April of 2014.
Okay, so that tracks for probably a GABF, right? You guys were on tap at Falling Rock,
yeah,
fairly quickly.
Yeah, I mean we got a lot of support from the industry, and I think Falling Rock was maybe like our first or second account that we started selling kegs to.
That's wild. And
yeah,
I mean it. When I think back on those days in 2014 makes sense to me. There is just this ramp up to that explosive growth that the industry went through. And you could go into new breweries, but you could still go into beer bars and find something that was interesting and new and exciting. And now here we are at the end of 2025, and it's a vastly different landscape, although there's still a lot of breweries, there's still a lot of choice out there. Um, when you look back over the last 11, 12 years now, what's been the biggest evolution for the brewery?
I mean, I would say, I mean, all our beers are like always, they're always evolving. I think, being adaptive, when we first opened, we just wanted to have like a big tap room. I mean, our tap room holds like 170 plus. And we got that idea from Dry Dock, where I used to work at. And I was like, okay, just the more butts and seats and the more pints we can sell, and the more margin that we can make. We started out with a 15 barrel system, and we still have a 15 barrel system. But then we quickly realized that we're actually not going to be able to sell all the beer over the bar. So we're going to have to start selling wholesale. And even to this day, like it's still more than half of a volume. Goes out on draft to bars and restaurants. Um, but just trying to see where we can, get some more sales, sell some more beer. We didn't want to ever sell this much beer off site, but we're making a push to do that. I mean, we're even gonna take on some contract brewing because we have excess capacity. I think, just being adaptive and just not being set in our ways, and just only continue to do what we had wanted to do, and just gotta survive, in these challenging times.
When you say get butts and seats, and that's always the goal. I mean, if you have 170 seats or you have 7 seats, you want to be able to look out and see people there. And I'm thinking through some of the conversations that I've had over the last year or so of the renewed focus on getting people back inside the brewery's four walls. There aren't the falling rocks out there anymore or they're harder to come by. Where you can get a well curated beer list. There's not as many opportunities on shelves these days for breweries. So getting people to where the beer is made, to your own house, where you can also then educate them and have a captive audience and present the beers you want in the way that you want them presented. What have been the challenges for Comrade on that front, and how have you been trying to address them?
Well, I think a lot of the issue just stems from a lot of macro and economic concerns. You know, our beers, we've tried to keep them as reasonably priced as we can, and we have had to take some price increases. But I understand, like, Denver is not a cheap city to live in. Cost of living is high. I mean, the cost of everything is going up. It's impossible to buy a house here. So I feel like the general consumer, especially on the younger side, people that are just finishing school, maybe they're having difficulty finding the job or the career that they were hoping to get. Um, and so I don't know, we're definitely not seeing we're not seeing like the younger clientele coming in. And I think, during COVID, there was like a long period there where, there might have, that younger generation would have had that culture to have like learned to, like, oh, go to like a sports bar and hang out, or go hang out and get drinks out in public. And I'm not sure, I think there was a lot of missed opportunity, during those shutdown years. Um, we've over here, I mean, we've been working to just do some more, fun events, stuff that maybe doesn't, it's like, it's not easy to just like come up with ideas, but then also not also spend a lot of money to do them.
Yeah.
Um, we don't have a kitchen here. So as a brewery tap room, we have beer, and we started doing like these they're like tavern style thin crust pizzas, and they're just made locally, but they're all like pre-shrunk, and we just pop them in the toaster oven.
Oh, is
But
that true? Because when I visited a couple of weeks ago, I we had some of the pizza. I didn't realize that they were like pre-made toaster oven
yeah,
type stuff. I thought you guys had a kitchen. Okay.
yeah, they're just like they're made by this company called Rocky Mount Pizza, and I mean they must have like dozens and dozens of accounts, but they're just made like 10 miles. Yeah, it's probably less than that, like a few miles west of where the brewery is, and so they kind of deliver um, and provide pizzas. They kind of lease you the ovens for free, so you know it's kind of like getting a really cheap printer, and then they make money on the
They
toner,
charge you
which
the
would be the
ink. Yeah.
pizzas.
Yeah. Um,
So, and we lost food trucks here, so that's also been really tough, which is why we decided to, you know, at least give this a shot and just figure out a way to provide food and get people to, you know, stay even if they could stay for one more beer. But you know, we have a really good community here. If you haven't been here, we're in the southeast corner of Denver. And there's not many breweries by us. I mean, the closest brewery is still like another 2 mile bike or drive or walk. So we kind of have our own little island here and kind of just, you know, really, really taking advantage of the fact that we don't have a kitchen. You know, community potlucks is something that, you know, that gets a lot of people to come in. And, you know, we got some, you know, I think people that enjoy good beer also enjoy good food. So it's fun to also just see. We have like theme nights every month. Just try to, you know, build up that community. Um, that's like one of the things that we've done. We've also started like this dice game tournament that we're going to be doing monthly. So just like a fun way to get people to stay and people get excited and you know watch this like really easy to learn dice game that's also like created here locally, just here in Denver. Um, Kind of just like you know making that community space. I think is you know really more important than having good beer. Although I think that that is also important.
yeah. When you say you lost food trucks, I don't know if I followed that.
Oh yeah. Well, we're renting, and our landlords just out of the blue one day after about 8 years, they just said you can't have food trucks anymore. And then that was kind of that. And this happened in like 20. When would this be? I don't even know. 2021 or something. Um, yeah, they just said that, and I know we have to listen. So they got you know very serious and got their lawyers to write these letters and stuff. And so yeah,
Jeez.
after having them for 8 years here, they just said you can't have them anymore. So that's also been kind of tough too.
I I'm sure you're going to be careful on what you say about, you know, all of that, but that seems incredibly short-sighted by a landlord unless there's like a really strong, compelling reason. And having visited so many breweries, understanding where you guys are in the space that you have, at first blush, none of that makes any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. You know, we try to work with them, but you know, they own like, you know, a dozen shopping centers all across the country. So I'm just one tiny little rent paying tenant out of their entire portfolio.
Gotcha. Okay. But you know, I like just to kind of go back to the dice game and the different things that breweries are doing to meet people where their interest level is, right? I mean, I feel like everybody's got trivia, and there's certain folks who like going to trivia, and you know, when you get into a groove with it, it's pretty great. Or, you know, if you like doing brewery yoga, then you're going to go do brewery yoga, that kind of thing. But it's limiting in some ways. So I like, you know, some of these, you know, you mentioning the dice game. I've seen some other game nights that kind of pop up that wouldn't necessarily be in the quote unquote craft space. Um, and I'm wondering, since you've been doing those types of things, if you've seen the drinking demographic change in the brewery?
Um, uh, we have like a very group, large group of like loyal regulars. We do get some new people coming in, but not very often. Generally it's like a lot of word of mouth and what you think of the people that aren't drinking, that's like the 20 somethings, 30 somethings, and you come in here, especially like we open at noon every day, but in the early afternoon, get a lot of, retirees or, people that are well into their career. But, sometimes you come in here and man, it's like, are we running like a AARP membership drive in here or something? Like probably the average age in here is probably like 70. Um, and I don't know, those are the people that are still drinking.
And supporting you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of them, they are retired, so they probably have you know expendable income and they're not working, so they can kind of do what they have and not be constrained by the duties of a job or a career.
Man, that sounds pretty nice right now. Um, I just, that's all I want to do now is just hang out at the brewery and not have the responsibility of the work. Sign me up in 70 years for that at this point. So is Comrade now in a place where you talk about the evolution, you talk about things changing, and even the industry, and just the way that you've been kind of rolling with it, but is from when you started to where you are now, do you feel like the brewery's hit a groove, or is it at a place where it's as good a representation right now as you ever hoped it would be? Like knowing that it can still always change and evolve and get better, but are you feeling like you're happy with where it is right now?
Um, it's hard to say. You compare to the before times and like when like the industry was still growing, like we were growing. We haven't even, we're not even close to like, we're probably a few hundred barrels off of like what we used to make back in 2019. And we used to be packed. I mean, I would say, so have we had any busy days? I'm like, man, I think we've had like two busy days. And then, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, like I would say like we were busy like multiple days a week. Um, the odd part here is just that, since we're renting, our lease, our lease is short. So our lease is actually coming up here at the end of May, and we only had like 5 years left when we started, which makes it really difficult to kind of do anything. So, I feel like I would like to be able to, spend money and do some upgrades and make things a little bit nicer here. Just like a little more creature comforts. But then it's also like, well, if this lease thing, if we can't stay here, then, I don't want to spend any money if it's just going to be, we're just gonna have to like, sell it all off in like less than 5 years. So we've been like in this holding pattern with all this uncertainty. And, I mean, just having a little bit less uncertainty would be helpful.
Yeah. And you don't have a sense yet as to which way that'll shake out?
I mean, we've been working with them for like 7 months now, so I think we're getting there close to the finish line. And I think we talked about how that food truck partnerships are important, and so that's been kind of like the most difficult thing to kind of agree on right now. So yeah, I mean we'll see. I'm hoping to get everything all get this lease signed and kind of continue on. It's been kind of like this cloud hanging over my head for a long time now, and
Yeah. It's such an interesting thing, right? When folks started, around the time that you did, and then that 15, 16 era, as well, that there was this like renting made sense, right? And you had some people out there being like, yeah, but you got to buy for, for long-term growth and everything. But it's the budgets were, what they were, and all of that. Um, and I'm starting to wonder what late 26, early 27 into 28 are going to look like if new breweries start to open up, right? If maybe things settle, maybe things um, start to improve, or a new generation wants to come in and start, hang their own shingles and start making their own beer, kind of thing. Um, would you change buying a place versus renting if you had the chance?
I mean, we actually have been looking to buy a place for years, probably like 3+ years. And a lot of the issues, like it's either too expensive, and with our size equipment, finding a building that's suitable to
For a
even
15
hold the
barrel,
equipment.
yeah.
Yeah, like we do need at least like 15-foot tall, clear height ceilings indoors. And all the properties that were available that we had looked at were just like, nah, this, like, our equipment won't even fit in here. So kind of just like was waiting around. And yeah, we're kind of like giving up on it, on trying to buy a building. But again, yeah, Denver's just super expensive.
And there was a thing with Denver years ago, right, when weed went legal, that all of the previous space that probably would have been suitable for breweries just went to grow houses. Am I remembering that correctly?
I feel like I don't know where many of the grow houses are, but I mean they're probably not meant for like a
Or
lot
like
of foot traffic.
warehouses, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I think warehouses were expensive. And um I think back 10, 15 years ago, it was like, oh yeah, if you just build a brewery, it doesn't even matter where it is, like people will travel for it. And what I've noticed in a shift of people's drinking habits, it's like they're just going to go to the one that's like closest to them. Like if it's less than a mile away, that's the one that they're probably going to end up to, and probably won't travel much further than that.
When I got a chance to visit right before GABF this year, and it was admittedly my first visit down to your spot, because I've been really bad about getting out and about in Denver. Um, Drinking IPA, catching up with you. And one of the things that you mentioned that I made a note of, and one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show to talk about this was, um, you said, the IPAs that you were making really hit a stride or came into their own or got to where you wanted them to be. I don't remember the exact phrasing because I don't have the notebook in front of me. But when you started doing hop selection, when you were able to start picking the hops that you were going to use and not just buying lots sight unseen or sight unsmelled, um, can you walk me through that, of how your IPAs have evolved because of that?
Yeah, yeah, but when we first started, we didn't know what our we had ideas of beers that we wanted to brew, but we didn't know which one was going to be like our best seller. In the end, our superpower IPA is the one that is like more than 40% of our entire production. Back in previously, when the industry was still growing, there was a lot of talk about how supplies were going to be tight, and a lot of the hop vendors really wanted you to sign contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so one of the main reasons we couldn't have done it for a while is because we had already signed these contracts to, yeah, buy hops for the next 3 years, and these certain quantities. Um, and like I think we had gotten lucky a few times with some of the lots that we have gotten, but you're kind of just at the whim. It's like, okay, this is whatever's at the warehouse. This is the variety that we ordered, and then it now comes, and it just shows up, and then you open up the bag, and you're like, oh man, this lot isn't as good as the previous lot that we got. And I don't know, so you just always have to make tiny adjustments. Oh, do we need up this one variety or lower another variety, or do we need to add some other like hop product or flowable in there to kind of get us to the intensity that we're looking for. What's really cool is that Yakima Chief, or YCH Hops, they started this program. It's called Project Open Door, or it's called Pod Selection. And we had been buying a lot of hops from YCH. That would be our main hop supplier, and that allowed us to uh, go out to Yakima, and for the 1,200, 1,300 barrels that we're brewing here, there's no way like we could ever meet the minimums. But if you then lump in a few dozen breweries all together, then we can go out there and hopefully a dozen breweries will pick the same lot, and then that can be pelletized and then segregated in the warehouse, just for ourselves.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, going out there, we our superpower IPA is got that typical magical combination of Citra, Simcoe, Mosaic. Um, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like I think that's what everyone does, but for us, like we were able to go through the lots and pick out. It's like, well, this is what we're looking for the Mosaic, and then this is what we get in the Citra and in the Simcoe. Like we're kind of like thinking of like the blend of the three, and that kind of helped. I think it's made like our beer better, and it's definitely made it more consistent. Where you know when we get that selected lots, like it's going to be the same hops, at least we know, for the next 9-10 months. Whereas we order another 10 boxes just on just because it's on contract, and it's like a different lot number, and it's got different aroma and different oil content, and that makes it tough to keep it like really consistent.
So when you mentioned those Citra, Simcoe, Mosaic, what do you look for in each of those? Like when you get those, those grape bags that would come through, and then you'd brew it the way that it hit for you, and then you could start doing selection, and you were able to start saying, okay, like yeah, this is what I want my Mosaic to come across as, or my Citra, and all of that. What was it for your IPA that you were looking for, that you found, and that is now there consistently?
I would just say like the kind of like the intensity, just making sure that that the beer has, a lot of aroma, a lot of flavor, and balanced bitterness. Another thing, it seems like it's kind of trending towards like more of the, I don't know, we don't call it like stinky, but it's like it's got that dankness, or specifically like Mosaic, it's got like that you know, black currant sort of thing going on. So, we're looking for something like a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more intense and like a little bit funky. And I mean, you see, what's like a very popular product that a lot of people are using is like the Cryo Columbus, and it's like, super, it's got the sulfury, diesely, kind of like that green onion thing that I think most people had, shied away in the past. But it seems like what, especially, very, very dedicated IPA drinkers, that's what they're looking for these days. So,
When you say that's what they're looking for these days, I don't disagree with that, but how do you land on that? Like, how do you capture that zeitgeist, that group think?
yeah, yeah. So like going out, drinking a lot of other people's beers, talking with other brewers, and finding out what they've been impressed by lately. And I think kind of I know that it's not all about like winning medals and stuff, but you see the breweries that are winning and winning in the hoppy categories, and you go and try their beer, and you're like, oh yeah, this is like, how is this different? So maybe it's really about like, what's kind of winning competitions, and what the judges are thinking, and they're kind of have a more more impactful, I guess, for shaping the trajectory of these beer styles.
That's so interesting of just because I know because GABF is centered there, that there is a lot of interest among the brewers. Like it's part of your fabric, right? Of you can set your watch every year to okay, it's now the season and there's going to be new people coming through and we're going to be able to have conversations and hopefully we'll get some hardware and we'll go from there. And it's I think the further you get away from Denver, you know, the less impactful on that level it is. When you're drinking though, like other people's beers, like, how do you dissect them? How do you approach it as both a brewer and a drinker?
What I'm really looking for is like good balance. We're always looking for that intensity and a lot of hop flavor, a lot of hop aroma. Um, and yeah, I think drinkability. We're always looking for if you finish one pint, are you are you wanting another one? And I'd say if the answer is no, then we haven't done our job properly. Um, when I'm looking in IPA, and I'm also kind of looking for something like a little bit lower ABV, so like less than 7, which I think is just as I've gotten as I've gotten older, it's just hard to drink
Oh,
the
100%.
the quantity of beer that I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, no, that's it's interesting though of just the way that some of those beers or that influence that the competition can have on brewers out there and the beers that you're making and what you're looking for. And I guess I wanted to separate that a little bit though, right? Because you're talking about the judges, you're talking about who wins medals, you're talking about other brewers, but I don't know if I always see the connection between what lands at a judging table, and I've sat at some of those, versus what people are looking for, um, drinks wise. Like, do you get or try to solicit consumer feedback?
um, a lot of our beers, we have like Superpower. That's kind of the old standby. That's what everyone drinks. And it's hard to figure out. Yeah, I think there's really kind of like two types of beer drinkers out there. There's one that they found the beer that they like. That's the one that they're always going to get, and it doesn't matter what we put on. And then the other drinker is like, I want something different. I've already had that one. I don't want that beer. I want like what's new, what's new, what's new. And we're I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely putting more variety of beers out there. Just more one-offs, just to kind of keep I don't know keep people's interests, and we're also using these as learning platforms on hey, how do these let's try out some of these like new hop varieties or hop products. And it's I don't know, it's always just kind of like a lot of testing here.
Have you found anything from some of those advanced hop products that you particularly like these days?
um Trying to think. We had like a West Coast IPA. We put in like they had like the hot side flowable, like the Hyper Boost. It's either Hyper Boost or Dyna Boost or the vice versa. So one of them's for like the hot side and then one of them's a cold side. I can never remember which one is which one. So yeah, we kind of do that, and then kind of just kind of reducing the kettle load of like the vegetative matter, just kind of increase yield. So we've been playing around with just some grams of alpha, just like bittering extract to kind of just keep the amount of hops in it boiled down.
Okay.
But it's like it has to be you have to have like actual hops, and it can't only just be extract. Otherwise, they just have like I don't want to say it's like artificial tasting, but it just like doesn't have the roundness. It doesn't have the balance. It's like kind of just more. It's like too one dimensional because they when they make these products, I'm sure that they're just like extracting just like tons and tons of hops and then just like blending it and then canning them up.
Yeah, I can't say I know too much about the science or process of them just yet, but um, that sounds accurate. Um, when you're doing one-offs and you still get the people who what's new, what's new, what's new. Um, where's your creativity leading you these days to answer that question? Like aside from
Um,
using some of the hop products, like are there styles you're messing with? Are there um, you know, old recipes that you're coming back to again? Are there I don't know, where's your creativity outside of advanced products leading you?
well, man, I have to say like we're kind of like all ideaed out over here. Like even us, we're like, oh man, we got some empty tanks. Like, what should we brew? And as a commercial brewer, it's not about what you want to make, and it also has to sell too. And so that kind of limits on the types of beers that we're making. Where um, it's still a business in the end. You know what? An example would be like our imperial stout that we used to brew once a year, and we'd release it on Black Friday, and we would fill a couple of whiskey barrels with it, age it out, and then release it on our anniversary. Um, and then like last year, we brewed one batch. Actually, we didn't even brew a full batch. We just brewed like a two-thirds batch because we're like, oh, we don't want to be stuck with it for an entire year. And we did get stuck with it for almost an entire year. It was like, yeah, we had Imperial Stout that was on pretty much like 50 weeks out of the year.
Oh
And this
man.
year we're like, we're not making it anymore. We're not even gonna barrel age any. So we brewed a black IPA, which we also haven't brewed in like 2 years. So um, I think moving kind of more towards like lower alcohol lagers are also very very popular. So you can drink a lot of them, and they're just like refreshing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we're definitely focusing a little bit, with all the capacity that we have, we're focusing more on lager production now, but um, not very consistently, and that's something that we're still trying to figure out here.
I imagine that there is a bit of nervousness, probably isn't the right word, but if you're going to do it, you got to do it right when beer starts down the street.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not here to, compete against those guys. They're Helles, they're Pilsner. They're all very good, and they would be also very different than what we could make here just due to the equipment that we have.
Oh, sure.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I was thinking about like, how do, like why do like these brewers and beer styles trend towards a certain way? I think about like collaboration brews. That's kind of how like a lot of ideas also get shared, and you always have like the big names out there that are collaborating with all these other people, so they get ideas from from an award-winning brewery. They brew one, and then we work with them, so we're getting those ideas as well, just on how to brew beer different using different malts, how to make IPA better.
How to make IPA better. That's what I want for 2026 is everybody to just keep pushing IPA forward in a good, meaningful way. Um, Hey, I've been asking folks on the show for, gosh, years now, what I call the green door question. And the premise is on the TV show, The Good Place. They introduce a concept in the final season of a green door where the characters can walk through it and be anywhere they want, doing whatever they want. So if we had a green door on our plane of existence and you could walk through it and be at any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? who would you want to be with, and what would you like to be drinking?
Hmm. I don't think I would. Man, that's we've been kind of all over. I would probably to go back to like Belgium, at like Cantillon. I first went there. Actually, the only time I went there was back in 2005. And that was like a totally different time where it was like there were no customers in there at all. I think there was like two people maybe that were there, and then they left, and then I was kind of the only one there, and just kind of like did the self tour by myself. But um, I think someone that's been super influential in this industry is Michael Jackson, and I met him briefly once at the Great British Beer Festival back then too.
Oh, cool.
Um, and yeah, I think to go back to Cantillon, with have a chat with Michael Jackson and kind of just like get his perspective, and I don't know, maybe get some ideas on, I don't know, how to move forward in this time where we are at today.
I like that. I think that's a cool idea. I like that. Um, well, I have to say it was fun being at the brewery this year. I'm looking forward to returns, so long as everything goes okay with the landlords, and so I hope that works out for you. And just I like that idea of keep making IPA better because it was so good getting from the airport. Your stop was first. Your place was my first stop, and just having really good IPA was restorative. I feel like it's very Colorado, but like it was restorative, and it's one of the things that I like about GABF every year is that it brings people in from around the country and they get to um, see what you all are doing because I feel like it's still an incubator and a proving ground and a great educational resource of like collectively all of the breweries there that are doing smart things really well. So I hope folks keep coming through and that you all keep doing what you're doing. But thanks for taking the time. Thanks for hanging out and sharing what's happening with Comrade these days.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
What's going on in your beer world these days? You can always reach me anytime via email at johnholl@allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL at allaboutbeer.com. Make sure you join the This Week in Rauk Beer Facebook group or follow at TW Rauk Beer on Instagram. Upload your photos, join the conversation. You can support us by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support. And while you're at the website, you can check out new content as well as the archives, which go all the way back to 1979. You can also follow and find all of the links for All About Beer's social media. And I hope you'll follow along. Before we run, here is a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
All About Beer receives underwriting support from Trillium Brewing Company. They understand the importance of independent journalism in the beer space, and their support helps fund original work. Learn how you can affordably support journalists by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support.
Today's episode is brought to you by Stomp Stickers. Stomp is built for the business community, serving everyone from small independents to larger franchises. Whether you need low minimums for a limited batch or bulk pricing for your go-to products, they've got you covered. Join thousands of breweries that trust Stomp for their custom printing needs. Go to stompstickers.com and try them out and score 15% off of your first order with the code FIRSTRUN.
Calling all hopheads. Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60-minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60-minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
If you like smart audio content, a reminder that All About Beer has a separate podcast channel. Search and subscribe in your podcast platform of choice. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday. The BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. As for this show, Nate Schweber does the music, Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.